Okay, so let's start. Firstly, a big thank you to the organizing team for having me on board for this awesome session. Secondly, to all the 39 people that I see active right now, I'm expecting more. So it's 40 right now. So more people to join in. So thank you all for taking time off during a weekend, like a Saturday, and say during the evening at 8, and coming over and say being a part of this webinar. So thanks again for being a part of this webinar. So when I kind of had a discussion with Teja, one thing that he pointed out is most of the audience would be from the college community, wherein people are still trying to figure out what data science is and how is it utilized in the organizations. So I thought of creating nothing fancy, but something that sticks to basics and that can help you progress in your journey towards becoming a data scientist or a machine learning engineer. So the session is Data Science Uncovered, wherein I'll talk about how you can get started with data science. And so this talk would be centered around for people who are developers who are kind of making or thinking of making a transition to data science slash machine learning. So without wasting any time, let's get started. Before I even jump to the content, I'll kind of tell you who I am so that you are aware of who's going to speak for this 1 hour. And a small introduction. I run a small YouTube channel. I teach machine learning and data science. I create short duration videos wherein the videos are high on content, but will give you content in very say small amount of time, and that's the whole motive of how I started videos. The second channel is something that I started this year, and it's also been received really well so far. So I teach Python specifically in this channel. So whenever you get an opportunity, feel free to check out both the channels. I think you'll find good amount of content in both the channels as well. The third thing is I'm basically a Google developer expert. So this happened last year, October, wherein I kind of gave some set of interview rounds, and based on the community contributions that I have, I was selected to be part of the prestigious Google developer expert community for machine learning. And in January this year, I was awarded with the prestigious 40 under 40 data scientist award. So that is a bit about me. Let me start off by understanding the audience. So when we kind of thought of creating this session, and I kind of wanted to keep it say more interactive, and rather than having it like one directional, I wanted it to be like a two directional flow. So based on the responses that we received, this is what I did to understand the audience, and all the visualizations with all due credit is something that Teja came up with. So thank you, Teja, for creating such awesome visualizations so that I could understand what the end audience is, and I could kind of say create content around it. So given that what we have in terms of registrations, we got around 184 registrations, and I can see around 38% of the entire population of people who've kind of sent across a response are working professionals, and the other, that is around say 62%, are still in college. They are about to graduate in 21, 22 and 23. So we have a good mix of students and professionals in this webinar. The second thing is we have good amount of people. Again, the ratio is almost same. How many people have worked with data science before? So that number is around say 38%, and people who are very new to data science is around 62%. So we have people who are say working with data science, that's roughly around 40%, and we have 60% of people in this webinar who are very new to data science, who want to say kickstart their journey, understand what data science and machine learning is. So that is a bit about what the audience is. We'll also cover some amount of important fine aspects of what the audience is going forward. So the agenda for this talk today is what exactly is machine learning slash data science? What are the various applications of ML in the industries that you kind of use, and maybe knowingly, unknowingly, you're not aware of the potential of how data science is changing the entire landscape. How do you start learning machine learning? What are the key resources that I refer to is what I'll share today. And I think a lot of say people who have made an impact in the industry would also recommend something similar to what I would recommend today. In between, we'll also, so the live Q&A session would happen at the end of the session, but whatever responses that I got, I did my end at my end. What I did was I did a bit of clustering. I kind of combined a couple of questions, and then I'll kind of give out an answer for those couple of questions that I've combined, so that you have a fair bit of idea in terms of which question relates to what answer as well. So again, without wasting further time, let's get started. So essentially, what is machine learning? A computer program is set to learn from experience E with respect to some class of task T and performance P. If its performance at task T is measured by P, improves with experience E. Now, this is like the default textbook definition of what machine learning is. So there is a book by Tom Mitchell, if I'm not wrong. This describes machine learning as this fundamental definition. So essentially what happens is whatever you program in say machine learning, or when you talk about a machine learning algorithm, you essentially talk about various aspects in terms of your data. In When you say something is like a machine learning model, what you've done is you've essentially gone ahead with some sort of data. If it's supervised learning, you have a target variable associated with it, and you have a set of features associated with it. So for example, if I have to predict the house prices in Mumbai, then I'll have features such as the square feet area, how nearby they are to the nearest say metro station, or the nearest say railway station, and so on and so forth. So these are my set of features, and you'll have a target variable such as your house price that you want to predict. Based on different algorithms, you come up with numbers that essentially describe the relationships between features and target, and then you essentially say start making predictions from whatever model that you have developed. So in a nutshell, it's mostly learning with data. And once you even go on to deploy a model, one life cycle activity that happens once you deploy a model is to monitor how good your predictions are with respect to the model that you've designed. So if say with time your data that you had trained on is entirely different as compared to what you have right now, then essentially all your predictions would go for a toss. So that is something that you don't want to happen. So I'll give you a very simple example. If you I don't know if I'm not aware of the age group, but back in 2010 there was a very say second to Facebook social networking site called as Orkut, if anyone's aware of that. So if you would have scraped data from Orkut, and if you would have created a machine learning model out of it, maybe like a review analysis or any hypothetical example, if you would have downloaded data from back then, and if you're still using a model right now, then ideally you're not doing justice to whatever inferences that you're making from that data. So essentially what happens is you also have to validate how good your data is. So that is why the last part, which is improves with experience E, comes in factor as a factor here, wherein you have to keep monitoring how good a model is, and then you have to take it from there. So having said what machine learning is, machine learning in the most simplest terms is machine learning algorithms provide computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed. So if I have input raw data of say images of apples, bananas and mangoes, essentially if I show a new apple with a different say variation in terms of height, width, none of the say predefined code based algorithms. So if you write a Java code to recognize if an image is of a apple, banana or a mango, then essentially you would be matching like a pixel to pixel match. So you wouldn't make it learn what the actual image is about. Whereas in machine learning, what happens is you kind of try to learn or try to make the computer learn about the different features that are there. So maybe color can be one feature, the shape of the object can be the other feature, what are the different edges that are contribute to that image can be the other features. So the more you learn about how machine learning algorithms are developed, so specifically for images, you have something called as a convolutional neural network, which I wouldn't say get into depth in this introductory session. But the idea is you have your raw data, which you have labeled already. So as an individual, I know which image is that of an apple, which image is that of a mango, and so on and so forth. So what I do is I train a model wherein I try and say choose algorithms which help me understand the hidden patterns between image features as well as the target variable that is there. I do my set of pre-processing while I'm creating the whole training example as well. And once I've kind of say uh, caught hold of every bit of nuances in terms of feature and target relationship, then I create a model out of it. I say create an executable file, or in simpler terms, you have a model file which saves the feature and target interaction in form of numbers. I basically make use of that later on to make a prediction. So the output chunk that you see is essentially given an input, say an input of a apple or a banana or something of that sort. Essentially, when you look at an image like this, the model should be smart enough to predict whether it's an apple, mango, or a banana. So that's what machine learning is. Essentially, machine learning is again divided into multiple categories. The example that I'm currently mentioning is that of supervised learning. You have unsupervised learning as well, where you don't provide target variables directly. You just provide the features and you let the algorithm figure out the nuances in terms of the interaction between features. A lot of say clustering algorithms or customer segmentation that happens in marketing, in say when you are targeted certain amount of advertisements, that is where good amount of unsupervised learning used to work. But now, given the amount of data and given the amount of interactions that we have with online portals, essentially what happens is you are kind of creating labels for the unlabeled data as well. So that is why a lot of it is moving towards supervised, but yet unsupervised still finds its way in between in terms of finding say relations between different features which are there. So that is a bit of what machine learning is in simplest possible manner that I could explain this with. Now, talking about what the applications of machine learning are. So if you've ever shopped online while checking for a product, so for example, if I'm on Amazon, then if I buy a mobile phone, say for example, I'm in the market, I open Amazon.in and I search for OnePlus T. The latest version is I think 8. So if I kind of say enter Amazon, if I search for OnePlus T, say 8 Pro, then essentially what it gives me is it gives me products which are similar to OnePlus as well. So there is good amount of similarity in terms of product specifications that have gone behind what the recommendations are that are being populated to you. So that is something that I can mention in terms of how say Amazon or Flipkart are using their recommendation engines. The whole backend or the whole backbone of the whole recommendation engine works on machine learning, and they've kind of captured the end-to-end interactions between from users, as well as they've captured interactions between products to come up with a recommendation for you. So as a lot of places you can also see, do you see the person who has bought this product has also bought this? So this is something that again a good amount of supervised learning has gone behind the scene to actually give you a recommendation as well. So this is some a simple application of machine learning which you would say frequently, you would be using frequently. Another example of machine learning is given if you are a credit card holder, or if you have a bank account with you, then essentially a lot of times you get a lot of calls from banking companies asking you to say opt in for a loan or an insurance policy. You are like a chosen one. They don't say call everyone and anyone. They have their set of engines running. They kind of select people based on the different data that they've collected from different data sources. So it does look scary in terms of how say everything's being tracked online. So if you are in the age group of 25 to 30, if you have an X amount of income, if you have a bank account in an XYZ bank, then essentially that bank knows a lot about you in terms of how much payments you're making, what is your transaction, where do you go in terms of your weekends. Do you say go out, have dinner every time, or what is the average bill value that you kind of have every weekend? So a lot of data is available with a lot of banking companies. So they have their own models running in terms of understanding whom to target next, which is the insurance policy that we can sell to an ex customer. Can we also figure out based on his salary and his expenditure, can we figure out if he is a single person or is he a married person? Does he have a family? Can they estimate what the family size is based on the shopping and history that they have on Amazon? So a lot of data kind of gives them an idea in terms of whom to target, whom not to target. All of those data points that they collect would be fed into a algorithm that they have designed, or a model that they have kind of come up with different features which are relevant for their end target uh, customer segmentation that they think of. So that is one application of machine learning as well. So coming to the bigger applications, Netflix has a truckload of content available online. I mean, if you sit down and go through each and every video that is available on Netflix, I think by the time you come out of that, say the entire exercise, you would have become, say, 80 or 90 years old, because that is the amount of, I'm actually telling you a very small number, but essentially that is the kind of content that is available on sites like Netflix, then Amazon Prime. So essentially, you cannot sit down and watch every video or every movie. And for them to be a successful business as well, they have to give people the right recommendation so that the person can actually watch the video that they want it to watch. So essentially, what happens is Netflix has a good amount of challenges that used to run some time back in terms of recommending people what the next movie that they should watch, or what is the next TV series that they should watch based on previous history of that person that they've collected. There is good amount of science that goes behind in terms of a cold start problem as well. So if you log into Netflix for the first time, I'm pretty sure you would have seen that they would ask you your name, where you are from, and what your, say, age group is, and what your gender is. So they have a default location based recommendations as well, because they don't have any data about what your previous preferences were. As you move along the whole journey in Netflix, you kind of, say, you start by watching Friends, which is like a very popular TV series on Netflix. So essentially they would get a sense that, hey, this guy kind of likes comedy TV series as well. So they'll start recommending you something which is similar to Friends. Then they'll see how well you react to the new recommendation that they have. Then they'll kind of keep learning from that experience that is there. The next thing that a lot of you would have read and, say, seen a lot of videos is about self-driving car. There's good amount of machine learning that goes behind self-driving car. Imagine the kind of accuracy that you need for detecting if a person is crossing by uh, the road, or if you have to basically understand the whole scenario that you have, which is right next to you, and that has to be done in near real time. So if someone suddenly comes in front of the car should be quick enough to first understand that there is someone who's come in front of the car, and then do a corresponding action as well. So the kind of system that is in place for people from the electronics background as well, think of it as a good, proper, robust control system, which kind of reacts to an input directly as soon as you get the right input. So you have models making a prediction that what is the environment around them, and you have actuators, and you have like a proper control system that is tuned to make like a real-time activity as soon as something is populated by the model as well. So that is how machine learning is kind of combining itself with different, say, fields as well, wherein people are able to now, say, a lot of places, the self-driving car testing has begun as well. This was before the COVID times as well, but that's how people are doing a pilot test in terms of how successful can the self-driving car version be as well. So that is the entire spectrum of the applications of machine learning that is at this point of time. Think about the various applications that you can have. You think of an application if you want to find out if a person is drunk while driving a car. You can have a simple sensor in that car itself. You can also monitor the live feed of that person using a video. Check if the person is drowsy or not. So you can have different applications that combine machine learning with traditional, your say, IoT devices as well, and come up with a prediction. So the opportunity is huge. The applications are immense, and that is why the whole growth that you see online these days in terms of data science and machine learning, that is the reason why it's kind of booming everywhere. Every company wants to kind of enter this race and make an impact in the overall business that they are doing using machine learning and data science. So this is a short introduction that I had in terms of what data science and machine learning is. The next thing that I'll do is I'll go over specifics of every Q&A question that came up. I think I wouldn't be able to complete every bit of questions that were kind of shared in the Excel or the Google document that is there, but I've clubbed a lot of them and I'll give you like a combined answer so that I kind of cover a lot of say queries that you have regarding how do you start and what's the right process in starting data science and machine learning. So how much knowledge of mathematics is required and what are the topics? How much and from where should I learn calculus and linear algebra, which is good enough to learn data science and machine learning? So these two questions, I have not say taken it from any external source. This is directly from the Google doc that was shared across with you. So I'll jump straight to the question, and a lot of you were also told to give an answer in terms of do you think maths is required for machine learning? And luckily 94% of you told that yes, mathematics is required. 6% mentioned that mathematics is not required. So I totally agree with the audience. If I was playing like a KBC show, I would have definitely agreed with the audience who say that mathematics is required for machine learning. So essentially what happens is machine learning under the hood, whatever you say, be it deep learning, NLP, whatever advances that are happening, your base still remains mathematics. If your base in mathematics is strong, you will have a good successful career in data science and machine learning. Uh, Machine learning is much more than coding. Yes, coding is a part of machine learning and data science activities. You are expected to write code in Python. You are expected to write say code very, so depending on which companies you work for, you will have different expectations in terms of what code you write. But essentially as at the bare minimum level, if your statistic knowledge is say on is kind of say if it's basically in the right zone as well in terms of learning data science and machine learning, then you have like a good base to fall back upon when you look at say complex algorithms that are coming up as well. Now how do you start is a lot of is a big question that a lot of you have. So for people who are still in first year second year engineering, you can still take your time. It's too soon because you still have mathematics going on as well. For people who are in say third year fourth year and who have completed their mathematics course as well, a couple of books that I can recommend starting upfront is Business Statistics by Ken Black. For people who are working professionals as well, I would highly encourage this book, Business Statistics by Ken Black. The reason being, it's got the right tune in terms of giving you statistics concept for every level. So it doesn't overpower you with a lot of concepts that you fail to digest in one go. Neither does it deprive you of the essential concepts which are required for understanding statistics that is required for machine learning and data science. So if I ever lay out a hypothesis with my boss, I talk about null hypothesis, I talk about the alternate hypothesis, I talk about the different tests that I do to validate the hypothesis, whether it be a Z test, a T test, an ANOVA test based on what I'm trying to prove or what my hypothesis is. All of that concepts, I seriously recommend the first book that is shown in blue color, which is Business Statistics by Ken Black. A really good book in terms of making you up and running with statistics, a very easy to digest book as well. Uh, a lot of it is given in a very simplified term, so you don't have to worry in terms of how much content should I consume or what is the right balance. If you go through this book end to end, you wouldn't have difficulty in understanding the statistics part of it. Coming to the next book, which is Think Stats, which is by Alan. I think it's a very well laid out book as well. This is more from a data science perspective. The first one is more from the end-to-end statistics perspective as well. So combining both the books, I think you are in a good position to lay out the fundamentals that are required in statistics. Again, I wouldn't say sugarcoat the reality, but if you don't have that liking towards mathematics, then sadly data science and machine learning is not the right field for you. Maybe you can try something else, but the whole innate say explanation that I can give is you have to enjoy solving problems using mathematics. That is all that machine learning kind of boils down to. So this is the initial step that I can recommend in terms of starting off mathematics or statistics. then while you're going through the entire process of learning something from the book, here is one website that I can wholeheartedly recommend to all of you, which is Seeing Theory. If you just Google Seeing Theory, and the first Google result would give you this, or the first Google result would kind of reach you, make you reach this particular website. It gives you the intuitions of various algorithms really well, like a central limit theorem, what is normal distribution, what is X distribution, what is regression, what is correlation. It kind of visually explains you concepts rather than going into more of, say, formula driven. It is more visual driven. That is why a lot of people recommend this, say, website as well. I would highly encourage you to kind of go through this end to end and play around with this website. It's a very well laid out website. I think it is constructed in JavaScript, if I'm not wrong. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing better than this, and there's nothing better than understanding concepts that you can see visually rather than say mugging up some say formulas that maybe you might not even use later on as well. So it's a good website. I would highly encourage this. For people noting this down, I think I'll share the presentation across after the webinar ends, so you can always fall back up on the link that I'll share. So if you're making, say, if you're writing down notes at this point of time, and if you are, say, finding it difficult to concentrate, then I think I'll share across the presentation as well. Going to the next slide, I think once you're done with the whole statistics piece, now is the time that you want to, say, understand how do you code all the statistics that you've just learned. This is one course that I can recommend highly, which is statistics with R specialization. Although it says it's R, you always, so the exercises would be based on R, which is like a very famous programming language. But you can always, say, go in or opt in for Python as well. So again, I don't want to start off the whole debate between which is better, Python or R. But generally, if you think of model deployment perspective and the kind of, say, community support that Python has, I would highly encourage you to start off with Python. If you find, say, R in terms of understanding the statistical properties really well, then R is also a good to have skill. But going forward, the pace at which Python is evolving, it is good to learn Python, because in the long run, if you have to deploy models end to end, if you have to create web applications, the amount of functionality that Python gives you, there are very little languages that can give you that amount of capabilities that are there. So this is my course recommendation in terms of how you can, say, implement the statistics that you have just learned from the two books and the website that I've mentioned. So hopefully this would answer a lot of the questions in terms of how do I or where do I begin the mathematics part of machine learning and data science. Now comes the very vital question which a lot of you have, which is there are so many resources over the internet. It would be helpful if you can give a minute or two for the roadmap one should, say, follow. The next question is, there are a lot of courses and materials again on the same grounds. Internet has like a sea of resources on data science and machine learning. Where do we start? I mean, that's like the bottom line question that everyone has. Where do we start? So I'll tell you where I started from. And okay, I think these two are also something that are tied back to the first two questions that I mentioned. Please let us know some resources to learn ML and also to improve profile and career transition. How to become an ML expert. I think there are very few ML experts in the market, so I'm not one of them. So ideally, again, the whole journey is important. What you achieve out of it and how much of an impact you're making is something that you'll kind of discover as you go along as well. I mean, what is the path for it? So I'll kind of try to cover this in, say, how I began my career in terms of data science. Before I start, I'll give you a brief background in terms of my education as well. I graduated in 2013. I did my engineering in electronics. I'm really passionate about electronics as a field. I then did my master's from BITS Goa in, again, embedded systems, which is like a subfield of electronics. I did my master's between 2014 and 16, post which I worked with companies like MathWorks and Cisco as a software engineer. One good part about my journey before I thought of data science as a career is MathWorks has a very heavy mathematics say related filtering round. So I kind of cleared that, and then I kind of landed up with a job in MathWorks. For people who are still wondering which company is MathWorks, MathWorks is the same company that makes MATLAB, the software. A lot of you kind of relate to MATLAB and not MathWorks, but yeah, MathWorks kind of makes MATLAB. So I was recently placed with mathematics. I've never say hated mathematics like a lot of my friends in college used to, but yeah, given the liking that I had towards mathematics, and given that I wanted to do something apart from software engineering, that is where I chose data science and machine learning. And this is the first course that I ever did in my entire life for a data science or a machine learning job. The course is Introduction to Machine Learning, which is part of the Udacity's program. Again, a free course. You don't have to pay any money until unless you need like a certificate, and you say spend some amount of money in terms of getting the whole people pay money on Coursera and Udacity just to be motivated. That is what I have seen with a lot of my friends as well. So if you are self-motivated, if you're not very keen on having a certificate as well, then ideally you can audit the course and do it for free. A really good foundation level course in terms of explaining you what regression is, what classification is. So this is one thing that I would highly encourage all of you who have no clue of what data science and machine learning is. You can start off with this course, see how and how much you're able to absorb and what is it if you're able to make sense of whatever is being taught. And from there, if you are comfortable after this course, then you can take the next step, which is something that a lot of people don't readily recommend, but I think this is one course that changed a lot of my concepts in terms of data science and machine learning, which is the machine learning specialization by Washington University. So if you look at the total number of ratings that are given, which is around 19,000, I think if people start doing this course as well, you would get a sense of how well structured this course is, and you would then start appreciating the course as well. So it's a very well laid out course. It's like a proper specialization. They'll take you through regression, they'll take you through clustering, they'll take you through everything in short, and it will be mathematics driven. So you'll get a sense of what is happening and what is not happening. Once you're done with this course, then I'll kind of come to the most popular course that you would have heard, which is machine learning by Andrew Ng. A very well laid out course. I mean, I'm no one to speak anything about this course. It's the best course that is available. But I did the course third in my whole journey. The reason being, I kind of started with the most basic course. Then I went to something which is say a bit more advanced, which gives me every concept in totality. Then I went into this course, which gives you everything along with the whole coding exercises. Back when this course was structured, the whole programming stuff was in MATLAB. So you had an option of either coding it in Octave or MATLAB. So I chose MATLAB and I kind of coded it at that time. Ideally, you can also implement everything in terms of course exercises in Python using NumPy and Pandas. So this is something that I took in terms of my journey for learning how to say kickstart in data science and machine learning. If you follow the order that I followed, I think you will be able to say absorb a lot more quickly. A lot of people who are like really good, well versed with mathematics start off with this course, which is Andrew Ng's course. No harm in doing that, but yeah, this is what I preferred. I went through a very simple course, then a notch further, and the most complex one at the last is what I kept. So this was how I kind of learned machine learning as well. Then for people who like reading books, Springer, who is kind of, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly or not, but they've recently released 65 machine learning and data books for free. This is till end of July. So I'll kind of share this link across as well, or you can just Google search about the whole news and you can download the books for free. Keep them handy. You don't get books for free that easily on this website. So if they are kind of say giving out the books, make the most of this opportunity as well. So now the question that was kind of raised was, can you please specify how to get started with Kaggle? Also do speak about the prerequisites for a beginner to start with data science field. So I think I've covered the second part. I'll kind of say go over the first part, which is discussing about Kaggle. So Kaggle as a platform is something that every data science person should try. Ideally, the whole journey should be you start off with statistics, become good with statistics, you learn Python, get a sense of how Python is, get a sense of how do you program NumPy arrays, how do you deal with structured data like a CSV file using pandas and so on and so forth. Go through the courses that I've mentioned. You can choose any order that you like. I kind of uh, walked you through my order that I followed. And then once you're confident about the concepts and ML, parallelly, once you have that feeling that yes, I am good enough with say classification algorithms like a decision tree or a random forest, then you can pick up data sets on Kaggle. Now, for every person who starts off their journey in Kaggle, the first and foremost data set that you can kind of start off is with say beginning with the Titanic data set. I mean, everyone starts off from that data set. Go through the kernels. So there is like a concept called as Kaggle kernels. Go through those kernels really well to get a sense of what actually exploratory data analysis is, what is feature engineering, what is feature selection, what are the best practices when you have categorical data, how do you convert that to say numeric data. More than having a rank or more than having a score, utilize the platform initially in your initial days to learn as many concepts as you can from Kaggle kernels. A lot of good Kagglers have say kind of open source their notebooks as well, so that people can kind of use that and refer that and kind of say advance in their data science journeys as well. So make the most of the opportunity that you get on Kaggle, and then kind of keep proceeding forward, and then start learning new technologies in data science as well. Start learning NLP if you have a liking towards say text processing, the whole chatbot thing that is coming up, the question and answer thing, which looks very amazing that a chatbot is able to answer what my question is. If you have a thing for images, start learning computer vision, which is where your idea of say making sense of image data would come in handy. How and where do you use image data? If time permits, I'll kind of give you a small example as well. But Kaggle as a platform is very useful for beginners as well as for everyone who is in their different stages of career as well. I primarily use Kaggle for learning new technologies, learning new say things that are coming up across different places using the different kernels that are available, and that is how you can kind of kickstart your Kaggle journey as well. Kaggle requires good amount of time in terms of devotion. So if you're up for it, if you are someone who kind of wants to make a name in the Kaggle domain as well, or if you want say if you want to be associated with the title of say Kaggle Grandmaster, and say if you want to keep contributing to the field, then Kaggle is like the right platform for you, wherein you get amazing amount of data, you get amazing amount of problem statements, and you kind of then have the ability to experiment out with things as well. So that is something about Kaggle that I wanted to share. Coming to the next thing, there is something called as once you are kind of say clear with the whole hierarchy that you know ML very well, you know statistics, you have played around with data sets on Kaggle as well. Now is the time if you want to say enter into like a research role, or if your role itself is more research oriented, then there are websites wherein you can say code on paper, or I kind of I'm not recollecting the name of the website, but it has all the research that is happening in terms of say semantic segmentation or object detection or image classification. Essentially, you can browse through the research papers directly on this website. I think I'll share the link across in the presentation itself so you can have a look. You can browse through the various research papers, understand what they have done in terms of coming up with the solution, and some of them also kind of share across their say the whole code in terms of how they have implemented the code as well, so you can kind of play around with the code as well. So that is something that I can recommend once you are say well versed with ML algorithms, what a classifier is, what a regression model is, and so on and so forth. After you've played around with Kaggle, I would highly encourage you to play around with research papers. Understand how different research is going on in the field that you like, maybe computer vision, maybe NLP, and so on and so forth. Now, coming to the main question, which is like a boiling question for a lot of you out here, recruiters are showing too much rigidity in terms of hiring. Nobody is ready to provide an opportunity. It is very difficult or disheartening to get rejected again and again. And to get a data science opportunity, we need a job. But to get a job, they are demanding experience. It's a complete deadlock. How to overcome this? Recruiters should change their approach to what thoughts you will share to recruiters. Okay, so uh, let me be very honest here. No one's kind of say safe in terms of dealing with recruiters. Whenever anyone applies for a job, the whole mismatch that is there in terms of what their expectations are and in terms of what the skill set are, that that disjoint is going to be there for some time. That is how I see things. So I was kind of hunting for jobs some time back, and I could see the big difference in terms of the expectations that are there. I remember going through a job opening which mentioned 15 years of experience in Hadoop. uh, the whole experience level was something that was out of this planet. So I've been through this phase in terms of going through various job opportunities which are there. One thing that I would recommend is, since you don't have experience, since you're still learning this field, what I would highly encourage you to do is pick up projects which say stand out of your normal hello world projects which are there. So I get a lot of resumes as well, and one thing that I've noticed is a lot of beginners highlight the most common projects which are there. That is the Titanic data set. What else is there? The Titanic data set, running PCA on Iris data set. These are very hello world like problems. And what has happened is, just to give you a little context, there is something called as a demand and supply kind of a scenario. So say 4 or 5 years back, the demand was really huge and the supply was very less. Now what has happened is, the demand is kind of becoming, to a certain extent, it's become saturated because a lot of people have already entered the field, and the supply is kind of growing day by day. So people have higher expectations from freshers as they had, like, say 4 or 5 years back as well. So the idea is, if you really want to say get into this field of say data science and machine learning, what you essentially want is you need a killer portfolio that would say go through the ranks of various hiring agencies or hiring HRs which are there, write projects which are really relevant to the job role that you've applied for. A very generic resume does not do the trick these days. So even if you apply for an internship in a company that works with, say, computer vision, then essentially you would have to, say, fine tune your resume in order to say get, or say if you want to say get into, say, computer vision based internship, then essentially what happens is you will have to uh, say tweak your resume in such a way that you appear to be relevant for that particular role that you've applied for. Like a very generic resume with the simple hello world programs is very difficult to get through in this time today. I'll be very open. So go out of your way, spend some time in terms of understanding what projects you want to do and do them thoroughly. That is also one thing. Don't copy paste code from GitHub and say that this is my project. Spend some time, even if it's, say, something like a face detection model that you've built or something of that sort. Ideally, what you should do is you should, say, keep going around multiple models. You should keep researching on the field that you like and then correspondingly apply. Writing blogs helps. I still believe that people or content creators start creating content for different reasons. I started creating content essentially for creating a video kind of a situation wherein I could refer to my videos whenever I want. So that is the kind of reason why people create content. So start having a diversified portfolio. Be a generalist at the start when you start applying for jobs. If you are a fresher, start applying for when you start applying for jobs. Be open to learning new technologies. Don't be rigid that I'll only work on X technology and not on Y technology. If they tell you to say kind of learn or go through big data and all as well, you should be able to be in a position that you'll kind of say ramp up new technologies and say deliver things as well. So again, going through the same set of questions again, every company needs data science. So that's the whole thing. People are ready to invest money. People are ready to say hire data scientists, but people are a bit careful in terms of whom to hire because the field is still very new. The field is still evolving. So what would differentiate your profile over the others is how much extra things that you have done apart from the normal projects which everyone mentions. So that is something that I can kind of say mention here. And just to club, in the interest of time, just to club the last two questions, the situation, say after COVID, is not that well. Uh, to to be very blunt about what I can say is the situation after COVID. There is good amount of economy that slowed down already. So I don't see massive hiring happening for data science and machine learning. But whatever hiring happens would be quality hiring. People are a bit cautious in terms of whom to hire and whom not to hire. So if you still have a good portfolio and if you can include the topics that is mentioned in the last line of the whole slide, which is can you have some skills related to big data in your resume? I think having a diversified portfolio in the initial days would definitely help you get the right amount of or the right job that you're kind of looking for. The start is important. The organization that you start off with is also important in terms of where you kind of take that career ahead. So that is something that I can recommend at this point of time. So the more diversified you have your portfolio, the better it is for you in terms of landing up with a job. So considering it's 8:54, 55, I think this is all that I had in terms of say trying to demystify how you can start off with data science and machine learning.